All right, so we are live. Good evening out there in YouTube, X, and Rumble lands. Welcome to another episode of This Week Unloaded. I am your host, Rich White, as usual. And as has been the case the past couple weeks, no panel. So, yeah, it's just me. Me. You gotta deal with me. So far, I've not shown anybody watching anyway, except the one person on Rumble, who Vulcan Rumble said was him a couple weeks ago. So, if it is, good evening to you. Yeah. Let's see what we got going on over on X. That's the X counter doesn't seem to be working anymore. It says there's nobody watching over on X. All right. Now people will start rolling in at some point. So, what do I want to ramble on? Just speak of there's New York Outcast, otherwise known as Rob D out there on the YouTube side. Good evening to you, sir.
Amish school exploded this morning.
Huh?
Tragic news out of PA. An Amish school exploded and burned to the ground this morning.
Oh.
3 Amish girls had the air lifted out. Raw fuel is suspected as cause.
Whatever. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard that or not. Something about a school explosion or something. So, yeah, I don't know. Some Amish school or something. And Rob's asking you, am I sick? He sounds sick. Yeah, I got a head cold of some variety. So, yeah, a little under the weather. Probably not going to go 3 hours tonight like we normally do. She brought something home from work, and of course I catch it. So, yeah, it's usually the way it works. It's one of the joys of living with somebody who works in the medical field and has to deal with sick patients. Waiting to see if we get some more people in here before I start talking about the main topic. Shows we got 2 people now on the YouTube side. Rob says if you were nice to her, she would be trying to 86 you. Who knows? Sure. Now we're back down to 1 person on YouTube. Yay! Wow, slow night tonight. Slow crowd. Fire flowers for Valentine's Day. That ain't gonna happen. Not cut flowers. Like I said before, instead of cut flowers, I'd rather get her something that she could plant in the ground that's gonna last for a while. cut flowers are a waste of money. I mean, you're buying something that's already dead when you do. She wants roses. She can get a rose bush and have roses that'll bloom every year, not just a dozen that are going to be thrown away in a week. Vanessa Kitty's up there on the YouTube side. Evening to you. Rob says it was nice knowing you then. Maybe, who knows. I know there was something. Vanessa says, but you do get exposed to some arms you might not in the other category of thermodynamics and its applications. She's talking about the main topic, which we haven't started getting into yet. There's a reason why I'm bringing the topic up, because there's something that happened this week. It's really ridiculous. So, yeah. Anyway, there's 3 people on the YouTube side now. So, nope, back down to 2. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, there's a Vietnam veteran who, I believe it was in Minnesota, went before the Minnesota State Assembly, their legislature, and testified before the assembly that the AR-15 in 5.56/223 is more powerful than the M4 rifle used currently as the standard issued rifle for the United States Army. And I believe it's also used by Air Force Security Force and Naval Security Forces. And I'm not sure which rifle the Coast Guard uses, if they use the M4 or not. I would assume it might be the M4. Pack Rat Atticus joined on the YouTube side. Rob says nobody's showing up because they're afraid I'm going to get him sick, and nobody can afford that right now. But yeah. Anyway, you got this Vietnam vet going before. I believe it was the Minnesota legislature, testifying that the AR-15, standard AR-15, not some alternate caliber, just standard 5.56 223, is more powerful than the M4 carbine. Now, as Colion Noir pointed out in his video on the subject, the AR-15 is semi-auto. Boom, that's it. You got a semi-auto rifle with generally with a 16-inch barrel, compared to a M4, same caliber, same exact caliber, no power difference there, with a 14-inch barrel that can fire semi-auto or full auto. Now, if you don't know much about the ballistics of the 5.56 223 round, there's not a whole lot of difference between a 16-inch barrel and a 14-inch barrel. You're pretty much going to see the same ballistics out of each one, which is why the Army went with the 14-inch barrel on the M4. They originally wanted an 11-inch barrel, but they determined that there was too much of a drop-off between a 16-inch barrel and an 11-inch barrel, so they went with the 14-inch barrel. Has almost the same ballistics as the 16-inch. So that's why you got the 14-inch barrel on the M4. But that's it. Two differences between the AR-15 and the M4, and neither one of them are caliber. One's barrel length, which is a nominal difference, and the other is the one's full auto capability. Now, generally speaking, that full auto capability in M4 is going to make it a little bit more powerful, if you want to call it that, than the semi-auto on the AR-15, simply because it's going to put more rounds into the air quicker. But the AR-15 would have the advantage of being more accurate in semi-auto. But again, the M4 can also be used in semi-auto, so that negates the potential accuracy advantage that the AR-15 would hold by firing in semi-auto instead of full auto, because the M4 can also fire in semi-auto. So basically what it comes down to is this guy either is a liar who is out there intentionally lying, or just has absolutely no goddamn idea what he's talking about. What makes it even better is Colion did a video today talking about an email he got in response to his video from another Vietnam veteran who proceeded to tell Colion that he was wrong that the AR-15 is a semi-auto rifle. And in this prior video, Colion also brought up the fact that a civilian cannot buy an M4. And he proceeded to say, also, the guy who emailed him also went on to tell him that that's a lie too, that civilians can buy an M4 if you have an FFL. The reason why he said the AR-15, by the way, was full auto, is available in full auto, is because if you go back to the early 60s when the M16 program was started, the rifle that became the M16 was the AR-15-601. Why is that important? Well, the M15-1601 601, was a full auto rifle, capable rifle. But they were never generally available to the public. They were the military prototype for what would become the M16 rifle. They were all bought up by the military. You could not buy one if you were a civilian because there were none for you to buy. So on that point, you can put a red X on that email on that point. No, people were not buying AR-15-601s because they're not available to buy. Period. You're not going to find, if you find one, it's going to be worth a pretty penny. And secondly, you can buy an M4 if you have an FFL. Nah, contrary, you cannot. You have to have a FFL plus the Class C taxation stamp, which allows you to purchase sample versions that aren't yours. They belong to your business, and only as long as that business is in operation. If you close that business, you got to ship that rifle back to the company that manufactured it, or turn it over to the ATF. You don't get to keep that firearm. It doesn't belong to you. It's basically on loan to you. Now, if you own a firing range, then you rent these kinds of weapons. You can do that under that license. But you cannot sell them to the general public. You do not get to keep the weapon. And mainly, what you can do to it is loan it out to, or not loan it out to, but use it as a demonstration for local law enforcement, maybe a military, that sort of thing. It's not yours. You don't get to keep it, and you can't do whatever the hell you want with it. Period. That's it. No, I'm not arguing. I'm pointing out the fact that what both of these guys have in common, they're both veterans, right? And people, including state governments, have this idea that we veterans are somehow, because we were in the military, some kind of weapons expert. For those of you who have never served, never went through basic training, the amount of time you have with a firearm in your hand is minimal. You're shown how to fire it, how to reload it, how to target and set your sights, and that's basically it. You get some range time where you get, because you do have to qualify with the rifle, but by no means are you made an expert on it. Rob says the guy's got to be pushing 80. Probably. But it's also not the only time that I've seen where a Vietnam vet stepped in it when it comes to claiming to be a weapons expert of some variety. I got into an argument one time with a guy at the VA who tried telling me, I forget exactly what his initial argument was, but basically he was arguing against something with the M16 platform. But when it came down to it, and we started getting into the nitty gritty on the firearm, he didn't know what caliber it fired. He didn't know what grain bullet it fired. He kept insisting that it fired a 64 grain bullet. Now, while we're talking, I'm looking up to see if there ever was on my phone to see if there ever was a 64 grain bullet, and I could find nothing about a 64 grain 5.56 bullet anywhere. And yes, he kept insisting that it was a 5.56 bullet that was used in Nam. There's one problem. The 5.56 bullet that we know of today didn't come into existence until the 1970s. The mid 1970s. In other words, after Vietnam. In Nam, they were using 223, which, as we know, because of the different barrels and stuff, and we've discussed about it before on this channel and others, that you don't put a 5.56 round in a barrel marked for 223 because 5.56 generates more chamber pressure than a standard 223 round does. So anyway, this guy didn't know that they were using 223 in Nam. He was off by almost 10 grains in the bullet weight because they were using M195 or M193 5.56. 223 193, which with a 55 grain bullet in Vietnam. That's what was being used in Vietnam, with a rifle with the twisted barrel of 1 in 12. This guy insisted that it was a 1 in 9 twist on the rifle. And that's just what he was getting wrong just with the M16 rifle. He also insisted that, and he showed me he'd been shot. He had the bullet scar. But he's like, I got shot with either an AK or an SKS with the same bullet and ballistics as, how did he put it? I think he said M14, just M14. And I was like, no, you didn't, sir. He's like, yes, I did. I was like, no. The AK-47 and SKS do not fire a 308 caliber round, or 308 cartridge. He's like, they fired almost the exact same bullet. I'm like, no, sir, they don't. The AK-47 and the SKS fire a 7.62 by 39 millimeter. That is an intermediate cartridge. The M14 fires the 7.62 by 51 millimeter rifle cartridge, which is quite a bit longer and more powerful round. So, but he argued with me about that. Oh no, I didn't know what I was talking about. And then that the bullet, the AK and the SKS only went 1,000 some, and by 1,000 I mean 10 whatever feet per second, which also is wrong because it's 2,600 and some feet per second if I remember right out of an AK. Well, between 23 and 2,600 if I remember right, somewhere in that range, with a 7.62 by 39 round. No, he argued with me that it was like, sir, they weren't using subsonics against you. He was like, and I also told him if he got hit with a round that would have been the Soviet equivalent, which is what the North Vietnamese or VC would have been using, it would have been a 7.62 by 54R, which there would have been only one weapon if they would have one or two weapons that they would have had in their inventory that would have fired that round. And went on to show them that it was either going to be a Mosin Nagant or an SVD, Dragunov. He's like, no, that can't be right. Again, thank God I had my smartphone, right? Because I was able to pull that information up, and it wasn't so much of an argument, Rob. It was more of a guy didn't understand in informing the gentleman of where he was wrong situation. So, we've been joined by Denny out there on the YouTube side. Denny's Plant-Based Journey. So, yeah. But anyway, that's 3 out of 3 that thought they knew something that they didn't. Why does that matter? Well, you got states. I know I'm going to preface this. I know people out there are going to say, well, permits are a constitutional infringement and everything. I get that. That's not the point. Got states out there that think that military veterans are experts on weapons. How do I know that? There are laws. Yeah, Packard says could have been a belt fed too. Well, he stated that it was a sniper position that got him. So I don't think they're using a belt fed for that. It would be, a PKG getting hauled up into a tree wouldn't be the easiest thing. Or PKM, whatever. Anyway, you get the idea. Getting a belt-fed machine gun into a tree as a sniper weapon, not generally what's going to happen. But yes, I did forget to mention that he did say that it was a sniper that got him. So, anyway, where was I going? Oh yeah. Anyway, you got states that think that somebody having the designation of being a veteran somehow makes them where they've had enough training to qualify for their carry permit. And what makes it even worse, you don't receive a whole lot of training on a handgun when you're in the U.S. military. There's jobs in the U.S. military where you may get that training, but the general GI air conditioner repairman, for example, isn't going to have that level, isn't going to have that training. Again, why does that matter? Well, because you got states like West Virginia where when you go to get your carry permit, if you've served as a veteran, you don't have to go through the handgun training program. Now, personally, I think everybody should have some form of training with their firearm. Not as a mandatory thing, but just common sense. But I know people that haven't. But anyway, let me. Now that we went through all that, and I'm gonna do a poll. Let's see what you guys think. Real simple question. All right, let me start this. Real simple question. Should states, if it pops up, there it is. Did it pop? Did it put the poll in? What the heck is going on? I see yes, but I'm not seeing the poll. All I'm seeing is yes answer. Reload. Let me reload that. Okay, so the poll's not showing up on my screen properly. What the hell? There we go. Okay, now it's showing up. And I misspelled forgo. Yay. Anyway, should states forego the required training for a veteran to get their carry permit? So far, it's showing 50-50. Now 67% saying no, 33% say yes. And you know, PACRAP brings up about former law enforcement officers. Yeah, same thing. Because West Virginia, if you're a former law enforcement officer, current law enforcement officer, veteran, employed by the DA's office, corrections officer, and one other thing, you don't have to take the safety class. So we I got 3 votes out there, and Rob already said he voted yes. That states should forego the required training for a veteran. Everybody else is saying no. Now it's 4 votes, and Rob, you're still the only one saying yes. By the way, if you're over on X or Rumble, and you want to vote in the poll, you have to come over to YouTube to do that. Yeah. Danny says no, veteran doesn't mean weapons expert. Some are mechanics, some are office personnel, some are supplies, some are cooks. Yeah. Packrat says he was artillery, but Sheila was an MP, which as an MP, she may have had a little more training with a firearm than the handgun in particular than others. Like Coast Guard, you may have had more training with a handgun than say, somebody in the motor pool in the Army. You know what I mean? Why? Because Coast Guard has that law enforcement duty. And there are a lot of Coast Guard coasties out there that carry a handgun every day on the job. So I think it shouldn't just be based on whether you're a veteran, but maybe what job you had. There's people in the military that are never going to touch a handgun, ever. So that's, again, this is just a what if scenario kind of thing. Because, again, I know there's going to be people out there that think that permits are restrictive anyway. And I would tend to agree with that. But since it's a system that in most, well, not most anymore, but roughly half the states has to be dealt with that don't have constitutional carry. Frankly, whether West Virginia gives permits out to veterans without having to have the class or not, if you're carrying within the state, doesn't matter. Foss says training should never be a requirement to exercise a right. That's partly what I stated already. But if in this situation, should something that where you don't actually receive that training count as having that training if your state does require it, is the purpose of the poll right now. Rob says he agrees that not everyone in the military is good with firearms or local laws, but if he could skip the class, he personally would. I did. I got my permit renewed, and I've never taken that class. I didn't have to pay for my permit either under West Virginia law. Not only did I not have to take the class, I didn't have to pay for the permit itself. But there's a caveat on that, because even those who have to pay up front for the permit, they get it refunded on their state income taxes as a refundable tax credit. So even if you are a civilian, you were never in the military, you're still going to, if you pay attention when you're filling out your state income taxes, you're still going to basically get your permit for free. Packrat said, Texas, all he needs to do is show his DD 214. I don't even have to have my DD 214. I just have to have my ID that's got the designation on there as being a veteran, and boom, that's it. I didn't even have to show my DD 214 to get the veteran designation on my license. I just had to have anything that shows that I was a veteran. My VA ID, I think, if I remember right, that's what I used when I went to the DMV to get my photo ID. And got the veteran designation on there. All I had to show was my veterans ID, not VA, from the VA. As long as you have something from the federal government that shows that you were a veteran, when you go to the DMV here, they'll put the veterans designation on your license or state issued photo ID. Rob said there's a big legal difference, but we should know to do our research on our local ROE/laws. Yeah, that's always what you have to do. I mean, for you, up in your neck of the woods, you probably don't have stand your ground or castle doctrine laws, whereas here in West Virginia we have strong versions of both of those laws. Whereas in Maryland, if I go to Maryland, it's you have a right to run away, basically. And with the way Virginia's going right now, Virginia has a good stand your ground and good castle doctrine laws, but that could change at any minute with this legislature and governor that they have now. So yeah, always know the local laws, not just to where you live, but whatever state you plan on traveling to. Rob says he missed watching the overnight this afternoon, was kind of bummed out on working in the yard. But yeah, talk to Foss about that one. Start a petition. Force him to bring the show back. In case anybody's wondering, this is the fella who doesn't know the difference between an M4 and an AR-15. That's the guy that started the whole thing. His name's Michael Orange. Denny says stand your ground and castle doctrine are both in effect in Texas. Yeah, Texas has good castle laws too. So, castle doctrine, castle law, whatever you want to refer to it as. But yeah, that's the fella. I believe he was in the Marine Corps, so it looks like it has the Marine Corps logo on his hat. Now, should I close the poll or let it go a little bit longer? That's 60-40 right now. We've only had 5 votes. Which means there's somebody out there watching on YouTube who didn't vote. West Virginia's castle doctrine. Somebody breaks into your house, they don't have to be armed, and you can take them down. Because as soon as they, under the law, as soon as they break into your home, they are now considered a threat to you and your family. Because at any point in time, they could go into the kitchen and grab a knife or what have you, grab a poker from your fireplace, anything that could be used as a weapon, they could grab that in your house, they can grab and use as such. So they are automatically, under our law, considered to be a threat to your safety, whether they are armed when they break into your home or not. Packard says, but they have strange carry laws. Yeah, Danny says you can follow them out of your house in Texas to stop the threat, or your neighbor's house. If you remember the guy a few years ago who chased people out of his neighbor's house and shot them as they were running away. We're at 50-50 on the pool. Wow. Honestly, I'm surprised. I was expecting yes to have a little bit higher, but this is only with 6 votes, so who knows? If we had more people in here, it might be different. Rob says, in general, he thinks exemptions are BS. Your job or previous title shouldn't give you more rights than anyone else. That I can agree with. Yeah, Gerald Muir out there says, hey, y'all. Hello. And Denny when I was talking about the guy who shot the people that he chased out of his neighbor's house, says, yes, correct. Of course, you also have the 2 guys that chased down the guy that shot up that church, and they put an end to him as well. If you remember that I forget what church that was down there in Texas a few years ago. So yeah, Texas has interesting stand your ground and castle doctrine laws. I don't know if we'd be here if we'd be able to get away with the chasing somebody who's fled the scene. We might, but I don't know. And by chasing somebody, I don't mean on foot, like in the case of the guy that was chasing the guys that robbed his neighbor's house and shot them. I'm talking about the guy that him and the other guy jumped in his truck and took off after the other guy. Which is a good thing they did, because they stopped him from carrying out what they going to be a shooting at another location. So. Denny says there are a lot of fake DD-214 guys out there that try to get a free meal on Veterans Day, pretend to be SEALs, Special Forces, etc. Many of their documents are faked, but hard for most to tell. Yeah, but when you're getting your permit, that probably won't be so much of an issue, because they do run a background check on you when getting your permit. Packrat says, but the 30-06 law is confusing. Didn't they get rid of that? I thought Clover said they had gotten rid of that law. Because of the fact that it was confusing. Because you had the 30-06 and the 30-07 laws. And, the poll is now up to 57% no and 43% yes. Interesting result on that poll. I wasn't expecting to be anywhere near that close. We're going to keep that up still, because I know some guys don't get in here until later. Like Gary usually doesn't get in here for another 15 minutes or so. And, Ron Wayne and Ron 2A Matters. We'll leave the poll up for a little bit. Where did my counter go for my YouTube counter? Just disappeared. There we go. It's back. All right. Foss says I can make it where it's not close. Which way do you want to go? No, just leave it be. Just leave it be. No cheating using multiple accounts. Yeah, 30.6. Is that the one where they expressly have to forbid carry permits being carried? I'm trying to remember. I used to know what they were, but damn it, I don't remember what they are now. I think that's what it was, right? Where it has to expressly state you can't carry a permit. Then he says 30.6 laws are still in effect. Any business owner can stop you from carrying in their business. There's also the 51% laws. If a business makes 51% or more off of alcohol, no guns allowed. Vanessa says she took the training when she returned. Yeah, here you can carry in a bar as long as you don't drink any alcohol. As soon as you drink an alcoholic beverage, even if it's a beer, then you are in violation of the law. Then you're carrying illegally in the bar. But as long as like you're designated driver and you're carrying your sidearm, you can go into a bar with your sidearm. As long as you're just drinking soft drinks, you're fine. As soon as you drink one alcoholic beverage, then you're in violation of the law. And then it says, yeah, it has to be posted. Vanessa says, if you carry concealed and keep it concealed, will the property owners know? No, you never know. Things can happen. But here, the property owner can ask you to leave if they see you have it. And then if you don't and you refuse, then they can call the cops and have you arrested on a trespassing charge. But that's about it. Rob said he's had his gun in lots of bars, but he's not drinking when traveling. And we're back at 50-50 on the vote. And if you're out there on X or Rumble and you would like to vote in the poll, head on over to the YouTube page and get vote in the poll there. Then he says, same in Texas, you have to leave if asked. Yeah, that's probably the same anywhere. I mean, business asks you to leave, you pretty much got to leave. Rob says some places only have a bar serving food. Yeah, the bar might be, especially a small town. The local bar might also be the local restaurant. You know. I've been in towns like that where the only restaurant was a hole in the wall dive bar. And a lot of times those are where you find the best food too. Some of those places have some of the best cooking around. Like there's this one place over in southwestern West Virginia, over in coal country. It's a hot dog shop that's built inside of an old school bus. And oh my God, are their hot dogs good? They're fresh made hot dogs. They're not uh, prepackaged, stuff that restaurants buy from a supplier. All their hot dogs are made from fresh meat ground up at the butcher shop down the street. Oh, they're really good. Vanessa says the smallest places she ever been to were in Alaska in the 80s. Rob says, yep, they normally have the good food. Mm-hmm. Other places you go to, like the hole in the wall places in inner cities, the barbecue joints and stuff. Whoa, get some really good food. Rob says PA has a lot of hidden spots too. Yeah. Man, I was sad the other day. I was watching a video on YouTube. They were talking about how they're revitalizing Pittsburgh, in a Hill District, where the Hill District meets downtown. And one of the places they closed was the damn barbecue joint we used to go to. Man, they had some of the best freaking barbecue you'd ever want. But it's not there anymore because of progress. Vanessa says, been making a coffee cup leather sheaths. Interesting. Are they insulated, Vanessa, to hold the heat in? There was this place, I always forget the name of the town. Pottsville? That's off of Interstate 79 between Pittsburgh and Marine State Park. There was a little diner that we used to go to all the time when we would go to Marine State Park. Go fishing on Lake Arthur and take a canoe out on Lake Arthur and stuff when I was a kid. Anyway, they had some really good food there. They had a better meatball sub than most pizza places I've been to. Rob says, no, not the barbecue spot. That shouldn't be legal. Seriously, that barbecue spot was extremely popular. You'd have a lot of the business guys who would order from there for their lunch. I mean, that place was doing business, man. But nope, they closed. They bought them out because of what they were located where they wanted to do some renovating, gentrification. Freaking sucks. Rob says anything he doesn't like is damn price and lines. Their prices were reasonable. I don't know if they still were or not, but when we would get barbecue from there, their prices were pretty damn reasonable compared to some other places. It was owned by this old black couple who the restaurant had been in their family for generations. And we'd go back to Pittsburgh, and sometimes we'd still get food from there, man. That place was good, but it's gone now. It's gone now. Rob said that's crazy and a pure sign of a town dying. Or politicians with more time on their hands than common sense. No, I don't live in Pittsburgh anymore, so that's not here. That was in Pittsburgh. The Hill District. Which, you know where downtown Pittsburgh is. You go east of there, you get to where PPG Paints Arena is. You know that area. That you go up where Duquesne University. That's where the the Hill District is. And there used to be a lot of those little mom and pop type restaurants in that area. Packrat said he misses good Polish food. Good Polish food in Pittsburgh, you want to go to Polish Hill. If I don't even know if those restaurants are still there for that matter, but there was some good Polish food to be had on Polish Hill. And a little secret, there was some good Filipino food to be found there too. Rob says he's got to run. Apparently, it's movie time with the lady. All right, Rob, enjoy, have fun. And by Filipino food, I do not mean those pickled duck egg things where they let the egg partially gestate. No, thank you. There's no way in hell I would ever touch one of those. But chicken adobo and stuff. Oh boy, did I! You wouldn't expect to find Filipino food on a place called Polish Hill, but I did. Of course, it was my one classmate's mother who made it, so she had a little food truck kind of set up. Those were the days, man. Those were the days running around Pittsburgh, depending on what section of the city you were in, depending on what cuisine you would find. Like Squirrel Hill, great Jewish food out in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood of Pittsburgh. Packrat said he grew up in the Chicago area, and there was a lot of Polish places. On north side of Pittsburgh, right below Troy Hill, which is historically a German neighborhood, they had there's an old German beer house type place set up, which I never got a chance to go to, but I hear it's really damn good. They get a bunch of the German import beers and stuff in there. Nothing, they don't sell anything domestic, and they do like the sausages and chickens and stuff like that, like they would over in Germany. It's supposed to be really good stuff. Again, never got a chance to go. You got to be a member to go. It's one of those kind of places where you got to have a membership. Didn't know anybody with a membership and didn't have one myself. But you get a lot of Scandinavian players that have played for the Penguins over the years have gone there. Had memberships to the place. How is it these chats always turn somehow into a food chat? I still don't get it. Are we all just that much of gluttons where we got to talk about food all the time? Is that what it is? Bunch of overweight people that just enjoy food too much? I don't know. I don't know. Italian food, you can find good Italian food throughout the city. So there's not one particular neighborhood that's exceptionally better than another for when it comes to Italian stuff. Especially if we're just talking like pizza shops. There's pizza shops. There's good pizza shops. So at least there were all over the city. Foster says Groucho said, I refuse to join a club that would have me as a member. Yeah, I refuse to join any club that would have me as a member. But then he also said he once shot an elephant in his pajamas. How the elephant got in his pajamas, he'll never know. How the elephant got in my pajamas, I'll never know. Groucho, master of the one-liner. That'll be Groucho Marx for those of you who don't know. Marx Brothers. Get yourself some culture and watch the Marx Brothers movies. Animal crackers, duck soup, horse feathers, day at the races, night at the opera, night in Casablanca. Fluffy 10mm Jeep guy says the best Mexican food is here in Detroit in Mexican Town. The best Mexican food is wherever you can find a Mexican who make friends with them and go to their house and have their wife cook for it. That's where you find the best Mexican food. I mean, Mexican food from people's home cooking that just destroys anything you'll find in a restaurant. One lady Amy used to work with when she worked at the hospital in Winchester. We went to their house the one time for dinner, and she did everything from scratch. The tortillas, everything. And oh my God, was it good. Don't forget, if you're just joining, to vote in the poll. Let that run a little bit longer. Might have a couple more people show up here in the next few minutes. I don't know. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep this going either. As Rob pointed out earlier, I'm not feeling that great today. I feel like somebody stuffed a box of cotton in my head. Right now, the poll is still deadlocked 50-50. Should states forego the required training for a veteran to get their carry permit? And again, for those of you who just joined in, who may not know the reason for the poll, we were discussing at the beginning of the show about 3 examples of veterans, ironically all 3 from the Vietnam era, who thought that they knew stuff about firearms and really didn't. So, got it. Well, now no is in the lead 56-44. So far, a slight majority believes that no, states should not forego the requirement. Foss out there doing his own Groucho Marx impression. How should I know how you feel? I've never felt you. Sounds like something he would say. Hold me closer, closer, closer. If I hold you any closer, I'll be in back of you. Oh, the great Groucho Marx. Very interesting poll result. Very interesting poll result. Definitely not the way I was expecting it to go. Pack Rat out there telling Foss he liked his sticker video, and Foss thanking him for that. I don't know what else to talk about. What else we have to talk about, though? We talked about food, which we always somehow end up talking about food. It's inevitable. It's an inevitability. Somebody gets a live stream on, and we're going to talk about food. Doesn't matter. We may be talking about a serial killer who hacked bodies up into little bitty pieces and fed them to the person's children or something. But later on, we'll be talking about food. The significance of the new moon in Babylonian society. Well, if I knew what that was, I could talk about it, but not really expert on ancient Babylonian society. Fluffy says I'm fluffy, of course I like food. Yeah. I'm seriously running out of top. I'm sure what the hell to talk about now. Apparently more troops have arrived in the Middle East. Personally, I don't think the Iran situation is going to be won without putting troops on the ground. I don't care how much of an air war you use, it's not going to do it. You know, if they want to win this, public opinion be damned, they're going to have to put troops on the ground. That's just how it's going to have to be. I only do one poll at a time, or I do a poll on that too. Wait a minute. Fluffy asking if anybody's going to GunCon. No. I'm hoping to be able to get to go to Goals later on. Wait, I gotta wait on the VA to see if that's going to be possible or not. If I get approval on some of the disabilities I applied for, I should have the funds to make it to Goals. Which that's not going to be too far from you. It's in Iowa this year. Foss wants to know, will Beretta ruin Ruger? I don't see why they would. The one issue there might be Beretta getting too big for its britches. They already got, of course, Beretta and Uberti, I believe, is theirs, and Benelli is theirs. So. Fluffy says he will be at goals again. Yeah, I didn't make it last year because Amy had to have neck surgery, and we were planning on going. I was starting to look at the hotels and stuff because Gary was going to go and he was going to stay with us wherever we stayed at. And while I'm looking at hotels with 2 bedrooms and hotel rooms with 2 bedrooms and whatnot, that day at work, she pulled something in her neck after she had just had disc replacement surgery in her neck, and her doctor prohibited her from traveling any long distances, so we didn't get to go last year. Packrat says he doesn't think he's going to make any shows this year. There's always next year. Well, maybe. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. But with you just moving from one state to another, that tends to put a damper on finances at times. And then with your health issues that you've been dealing with, that'll put a damper on things too, I'm sure. I wanted to go to the antique gun show in Baltimore this weekend, but didn't get a chance to do that. I'm not feeling well and everything. Yeah, we're tied again. 10 votes and we're at 50-50. Hacker said his back's not up to it. Yeah, it's what I figured. Yeah, like, the antique gun show in Baltimore is nice to go to because they have basically, it's a gun show, but they also have, it's in a building that has 2 halls in it. The one hall is where they have a bunch of museum pieces, right? Not stuff that's not for sale, but you can look at them, and like there was one guy there last time we were there. He had a whole crate of Walther uh, P38s that had never been opened. You know how much that crate of P38s is worth? Because they had all the markings intact and everything. There was another guy who had a bunch of Colt mini revolvers, the little ones, that were all presentation pieces that Colt had given out, and they came in a box with all the accessories. And this guy hunted down every single one of those Colts and the accessories that went with them. Packer says he'd like to know how and when you got shot. Maybe you got shot by somebody with a tranquilizer dart. They hit you with a tranquilizer dart first, and they shot you so that you couldn't feel it. There was one guy there in the museum section had like 5 different cannon from like the Civil War. There was some really cool stuff just in the museum section. Then you go over into the other hall where people were selling stuff, and it all had to be before a certain year. So it was all antique stuff. There was nothing modern. It was all old stuff. You could buy like old foreign military uniforms and stuff from like we would see in the movies, like Gunga Din or Zulu, or that style uniform from back in the 1800s. Now, it was all supposed to be antique stuff. There were some people that had like World War II stuff, even though technically that was newer than what you were supposed to be able to buy there. But that's where my son got his World War II stock, vintage stock for his M1 carbine. It was at that show. The guy only wanted like $25 for it. Packer says he wants a cannon. I want a Hotchkiss mountain gun. Little 4-inch gun, I think it is. Man, those are fun little breech loading cannon from the late 1800s. It's like an artillery piece in miniature. And the inert rounds for it, all things considered, aren't that expensive. I mean, they're not cheap, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper than some other rounds. When you're talking about cannon and stuff. Plus, it's one of the few breech loading cannon that's not going to require you to have an NFA approval for it. It's an antique. NFA doesn't apply to it. Can you imagine being somebody breaking into your house and the first thing they come across is when they break in your door is you standing there with a Hotchkiss mountain gun pointed at them? Fox says he'd rather have the Hotchkiss 37mm revolving cannon. Yeah, that could work too. Old school puckle gun, but that'll cost you a small fortune. If you can even find one that works. And you're talking early 1700s there. Which, by the way, the puckle gun just proves all these anti-gunners who say that they never envisioned repeating firearms back during the founding. Puckle gun wants a word with you. Trying to make it to an hour and a half at least. I just said the Puckle gun, Pack Rat. Silly delay on YouTube. Multi-cylinder flintlock cannon. Voss says his dad was artillery in Vietnam. Puckle gun. Cock the hammer, fire, rotate the cylinder, cock the hammer, fire, rotate the cylinder, cock the hammer, fire. Pack Rat's asking, was he towed or self-propelled? Well, hopefully he was self-propelled. If he had to be towed, he was in trouble. We had a guy who lived down the street from us. He was in the Marines. He was on one of those ones that had the 6 recoilless rifles on it. Hell, I can never remember the name of that vehicle, but he was a crew member on one of those. He said it didn't look like much, but man, that could save your. He said that thing saved our butts a lot of time. You put a high explosive round through one of those things, and you got the VC or the NVA trying to swarm your position, and that took care of the problem. I guess 6 recoilless cannon will do that. Said the fire station he was at, they had 2 of them, one on each side. It was base defense. The first thing you hear is to be the claymores going off in the distance when they try coming to get you. If they set the claymores off, there are times where they wouldn't. It was like living a horror movie every night. Packer said he had a beehive round, turned the guns into a 155 millimeter shotgun. Yeah, like an old canister shot. So named because that's exactly what it was. It was a canister. Looked like a coffee can. Canister shot be full of different types of sizes of basically ball bearings. Fire that out of a Napoleonic cannon and boom, basically turned it into a giant shotgun, like what you're talking about. Voss says he sent me a pic. Let's see if my email wants to cooperate here. Which email did he send it to? I have not received anything. Let's send it to spam. Let's send it to spam. Stupid freaking email. All right. Okay. Let's see if it'll open it. Come on, open. What the hell? Where did it go? Of course, it doesn't want to open it. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. Let me go back over here. Open the wrong one. This one. Alright. Back over here. There we go. And that's the picture Foss sent. Is that your dad over in Nam, Foss? Yeah, Packer said they also made ball bearing round for the M203. Yeah. Yeah, there's essentially a canister round for a lot of different vehicles. Foss says, yep, that's it. Says yes. So yeah, that's Foss's dad, folks, when he was stationed over in Vietnam. Cool pick. Nice pick. Yeah, we're about at the hour and a half mark. Like I said, I'm not feeling that well, so I'm not going all night. I'm not going to be doing a 3-hour marathon tonight. So I'm going to wrap this one up. We're going to close the poll out at a tie. The poll 50-50. 50% said yes, 50% said no. And Foss says he thinks that was his dad's second tour in '67. Fluffy says, be safe out there. It's crazy and getting crazier. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Ever changing world in which we live in makes you give in and cry. Say, live and let die. Anyway, it's about the best of a Paul McCartney impression as you're going to get, folks. Especially when I'm not feeling it. So, on that note, Gizzard Gary should be having his show tomorrow night, so be sure to check that out. over on the Gizzard Gary channel. If you're not subscribed to Mr. Gizzard Gary on the YouTube or X or where else does he go? Twitter, or X is Twitter, Twitch, sometimes Rumble. Get over there and do that. Subscribe to Mr. Gizzard Gary. And if you really want to be special, become a member on Gizzard Gary's channel, specifically his YouTube channel, and every Wednesday you get a chance to win a knife. And I'm talking some nice knives, folks. So anyway, hopefully I'll be feeling better tomorrow. We'll see you over there tomorrow night, and we will bid you adieu for now. Have a good night, everybody.